Hey, what's up? Welcome to the B12 podcast, the one where every show matters, where there's only one true podcast. This is your host, Chris Armstrong. With me, as always, Garrett Sauls, EJ Hayes. Thank you guys for joining us. This is the 2015 recap, last show of the season, last show of the 2015 football season. It is our 2016 season preview. Tonight, we're going to be talking schedules. We're going to be talking possibly expansion. We're going to be talking maybe a little bit of coaching changes and or recruiting. And then we're just going to talk about whatever just comes up. So if you have something, go ahead and tweet at us or, just tweet at us. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. I am at CJ Armstrong, at GW Sauls for Garrett, at EJ Hayes for EJ Hayes. So we try and make it easy on you to get a hold of us. So if you have any questions, go ahead and tweet us, and we will do our best to get back to you and answer your questions. But let's start off tonight. Let's talk about the Big 12 schedule. First of all, the new rule comes out that from this point forward, that the Big 12 has to, one, schedule a Power 5 conference. Also, there has been a major overruling, so to speak, with the NCAA, and that now the Big 12, even with 10 teams, can have a championship game, which is like one of the three things that people say are lacking in the Big 12. Garrett, first of all, what do you see about the Power 5 scheduling? Do you like that, or do you not?
I do. I love that. I think it's kind of, so, all right, it's kind of silly that we have to make a rule about it. Like, it's one of those things that we just should have been doing. Oklahoma State's been guilty of it. Baylor's probably the biggest offender. But the reality is that everyone in the Big 12 does it. But I will say that the SEC is just as guilty of it, too. You look at Alabama, and they schedule someone like Charleston Southern School for the Blind, and
well, the SEC,
the 10th game of the season, too.
The SEC has 6 of the Power 5 conference games a year. So why would they need to score it? Why would they need to play anybody else?
Right.
They have 6 to 8 of the Power 5 conference.
Yeah, sure.
So look, it doesn't matter about the SEC.
Yeah, especially not the SEC East, which is their sparkling record.
Yes,
we're better than the SEC. Stop comparing us.
But I will say this, like, credit to the SEC is that most of them do schedule at least one Power 5 conference, whatever it may be. So I think it's high time the Big 12 caught up. Silly that we had to make a rule. We just should have been doing it. Honestly, I want to give a lot of credit to Texas for doing this a long time, even though obviously Texas hasn't been very good in a long time. But they've been the forerunners in the Big 12 for it. They schedule Notre Dame every year. They schedule someone like Cal or UCLA. I mean, as far as schedule goes, Texas does a pretty good job, but everyone else kind of maybe not so much.
Well, yeah, I think Gundy really pretty much hates this with a passion because he feels like this is his preseason tune-up period, and the last thing he needs is to be thinking about all this. I think that historically, I'll just use the Georgia game for example. 09, maybe 8 or 9. I think that was like a catapult for the whole program. And I'm not saying beating Georgia is like a big deal, but I'm telling you, when we beat Georgia, I think the media immediately started talking about us. We were playing well. We had Z-Rob and Des Bryant and Kendall Hunter, I believe, and Pettigrew and some other awesome players. And a lot of those guys were in the NFL. I'd like to think that all the talk then got all those guys drafted. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to get, go in and have the Big 12 over in the first 4 weeks on Power 5 conferences. However, somebody along the line is going to mess up, the Texas Techs, the O States, the Baylors. That's really going to catapult those guys. So if Baylor beats a big-time opponent in week 1 or week 4, are you kidding me, Baylor? Stop doing what you're doing, and while you're fresh, play someone big time. That's going to pay dividends at the end of the season when you do slip up on an Oklahoma State or an OU, you still have the benefit of the doubt because you beat some Alabama or someone insane, right?
Or even your quality loss.
Absolutely. That's exactly right, though. If you play the big boys and then the big boys go crazy, if that team you play, say you play Alabama, and then they go undefeated, well, guess what? That is a quality loss. Believe it or not, you stepped up to the plate. It does mean something to voters. It does.
Is it really worth the risk of taking a loss early in the season? I mean, is that
no reason?
Let's say that you do win that game against an SEC school or whatever. Is that win actually going to be the thing that puts you over that edge that gets you into the playoffs? I'm not so sure it is. Like, yeah, we could schedule an Alabama or Georgia or whoever, but chances are like they have just as much of a chance as screwing up their entire season.
But here's
Arkansas.
Yeah.
That all the other teams do.
So say where you're going to take. Yes, I agree. Say you're going to take the 9 games you play in the Big 12. You're going to win them or you're going to lose them, regardless. But
those are the 2 options. Yes.
So right, it doesn't matter who you play unless you get hurt or something like that. So what are the options, right? We play Powder Puff team and we're Oklahoma State or we're Baylor, and we beat everybody. And just like we talked about, if you're OU and you beat everybody, you get in. But if you're OSU or Baylor or Texas Tech and you beat everybody, well, you don't pass the eye test. That win at the beginning of the season that's now going to be forced upon us will be the difference.
So the question I have, this is the untested thing because this is new waters for the Big 12. My question is, since obviously the college football playoff is a little bit slanted on who they want in, and we've seen them manipulate the rankings to rise and fall who they want to rise and fall. My question is okay, we have this new Power 5 rule. What happens if we have a Stanford situation like Stanford did this year? They went and lost to Northwestern on the road at the beginning of the season. They went out and won the Pac-12, but they got left out. And that's their fault because they lost a game in there. I can't remember who they lost to. I think it may have been Oregon or something. No, it wasn't Oregon. It was I can't remember.
No, it was Oregon.
Okay. They lost to Oregon.
That's the game they got their quarterback back.
Right. So they were a 2-loss team, but they were on the cusp. But anywho, my question is do you think that the Big 12 will be afforded the same credit, or do you think that the CFP would say, oh, the Big 12 team, we're not really high on them. Okay, yeah, you played Notre Dame at the beginning of the season, but Notre Dame isn't really that good this year. I'm just worried that they're going to flip the tables on us at the end and say, like, oh, it's great that you have this Power 5, but it's not going to change it anyway because we're still going to find a way to keep you out.
Notre Dame's best football is still ahead of them. They haven't quite hit their stride yet.
Right.
Yeah. Touchdown Jesus.
But I think it's largely a good thing. I think that's a good thing. That's taking away the power that the CFP has to leverage and do all this stuff. But I got to tell you, Big 12, after this bowl season showing, like, they're really going to have to step up their play. And it's good that they're going to get more experience doing this because they need it. Because our bowl record this past year, well, in recent years, hasn't been stellar.
Well, I think you're touching on something. I think the bowl record on how, I'm going to say, besides a couple of awesome games, the Big 12 overall sucked it up. Well, I think that same thing will be judged preseason. So preseason, think of it as like bowl season where we had to play a Power 5. Well, we go out and play all these games, and we either suck or we're awesome. We're above 500 or below 500, especially with the big boys. Then that will be the narrative for the rest of the season, right? So I think that's how they want it. They want to compare, Power 5 to Power 5. That gives them something to go off of to talk about. So when I think about this, I think Kirk Herbstreit. That guy's so, wishy-washy when it comes to, week to week, which, it's journalism. You got to talk about something, right? You can't just be like, Alabama, because everybody will crucify you. But, that's what or Ohio State, or whatever his thing is. But, that will carve the narrative early in the season. So
I don't know. Maybe my thing
now, or it's gonna catapult us.
But okay, take this scenario. We go schedule Oregon State or Colorado. We have fulfilled that rule, but both of those teams ended up like
Suck.
the bottom of their divisions in their conferences.
It was like the Tennessee game. Like, okay, Tennessee didn't end up that bad, but was OU scheduling Tennessee? Was that really that big of a deal? No.
Oh, if you ask OU, it was. They're SEC. That was like the baddest. That is the best 5-5 SEC team on earth in the history of the world. Forever.
But it's like one of the, I mean, but you make a good point, Chris. Like, at the end of the day, you can schedule this and fulfill the Power 5 requirement, but if you're doing it against Tennessee, what are you really saying? Are you really making a statement? Not really.
So the problem is about 5 years ago, OU, I believe, scheduled Florida State, or actually OSU scheduled Florida State.
2013.
But when they scheduled Florida State, they were like Tennessee. They were kind of like, used to be big dogs, but they're not any good. And of course, we schedule them when they win the national championship.
Yeah, of course.
Naturally. So that's the kind of the hard thing. Are you going to schedule these guys 5 years out, and either they have the name and you luck out and they suck, but you get to beat the name like Tennessee or whatever, or are you going to have a Florida State where you schedule them out, they got a good name, and they happen to be really good the year you play them?
Welcome to the B12 podcast. We are previewing the 2030 season where Nebraska takes on OU. The kids that are playing this game are right now, they're 4 years old.
Yeah. Rekindle the fire.
By that time, Mexico will have become part of the U.S., will have introduced American football. There will be El Sur division with, OSU playing Chihuahua State.
Will they be able to kick the football over the wall that Trump built, or not?
But, hey, we're going to have a lot of great kickers. It's going to be a really improved facet of the game all around. But Alabama still won't recruit a kicker, though. They still won't put one on scholarship. You better believe it. So.
No.
Does anybody else see these Power 5 as the precursor to the districts in the Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
So my question is when does the SEC and Big 12 merge? And it's just what Chris just said.
Super conferences.
So if the SEC is the best, if you can't beat them, join
Missouri, A&M, they just beat us to it, right?
Exactly.
Mizzou, come on.
The Mizzou about won the SEC. And they couldn't even, stay above water in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So the other side of this coin is the Big 12 can now play a conference championship with just 10 teams. Is this enough to catapult the Big 12 to the next level and make us legit as a conference?
So I like that. I like the idea of a championship game. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's so much the championship game as it is playing that final week and being present and being on people's minds, because that's what's always killed us is, Big 12 finishes their season and then, it's SEC championship week. Everyone's watching that. That's getting all the ratings, right? It would be great to have one true champion with an actual championship game, but without divisions, how does that work? You play round robin, so what if theoretically Baylor and TCU tie each other, then they go play each other in a rematch in the championship game? Is that fair? I don't know.
This year, OSU plays twice in a row.
Yeah.
And what happens if OSU wins the second game?
Mm-hmm.
Are they the Big 12 champ? Because we
won the Big 12 championship game.
Right. They're Big 12 championship champs, but are they the Big 12 champs? You know what I'm saying, though?
Right.
If you have a 1-1,
does it actually bestow the title of champion on them? I would think it would have to, but it doesn't feel like it. And I feel like if OU beat us like they did this year, and then we go beat them by like 1 point because we hurt their quarterback in the first quarter or something like that, then they would totally rag on us like we're cheated or something. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. Yeah, it doesn't seem quite fair. I think without divisions,
I totally agree.
It's
But the thing about divisions is you're not even necessarily getting the best two teams in the championship game. Like, just if we somehow imaginary split this out, OU, OSU ended up in the same division this year, they would have been the best two teams in the Big 12.
But they would play each other if we had divisions.
That's right, because OSU would have finished second. OU would have made it to the championship
and play
against
K-State.
against K-State or
or West Virginia or something, which lost a lot of games, right?
Yeah.
or,
The whole K-State or Missouri or Nebraska deal, right? If Nebraska somehow didn't win, that means K-State or Missouri was in, and they had 3 losses, and they were playing an undefeated Texas or OU. So that was always whack. But then again, when that team K-State beats OU like they did with Sproles back in the day,
they're the champion.
Exactly. So the question is it's I don't know how to describe it, but I just don't. It doesn't feel right. I get it.
I don't see it working without expansion. I think that will be key, but expansion is a whole nother chestnut. So.
Yes. So, are we ready to talk about expansion?
Yeah, let's talk about expansion. So there are a ton of rumors flying around. OU's president Boren has come out. He's always been in favor of expansion. He has been one of the most vocal guys around the Big 12 ADs, or around the Big 12 just meetings in general. So he comes out and he has always said we need an expansion. In fact, I just read something. We need an expansion, we need a championship game, and we need a Big 12 network. And he wants to try and get the Longhorn network to fold and then retool as the Big 12 network.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Especially coming from an OU guys.
Yeah, I was
hey,
like,
Texas, would you
I'm sure they're
mind?
gonna listen
Who
to
watches the Longhorn Network?
Nobody. It's a joke.
Seriously, guys.
But the Longhorns will spite David Boren just to do it. They will lose all of their infinite riches just to spite David Boren. And
They've
I applaud them
already
for that.
done that.
So just based on what I've seen on basically social media and all that, the teams in talks for expansion, Cincinnati, UConn, Houston, Central Florida, USF, Memphis, Tulane, BYU. And one of these tweets by Dave Sittler listed all these out, and he said, even though UConn seems closer to Iceland.
It probably is.
Which it does feel like that a little bit. Do any of these or none of these or all of these make sense to you? Let's start with you, EJ. Like, what do you think about these?
If you look at Big 12 as a whole, for example, with basketball, a couple of those names you said were kind of legit basketball, schools. So, almost like a Kansas, a total flip-flop, total turd in football, but legit elite top 5 every year no matter what in basketball. So, like a Memphis and a UConn, even Cincinnati's been pretty legit. So I think if you look at it as a whole, I can see it. Now, if we're looking at it as football, those teams kind of concern me. It's almost like the Vanderbilts of the SEC. It's like if you're just going to expand and water down your conference, does that really help you? Or does that make you look stronger than you are? Because you're beating an SEC Vanderbilt who sucks, who couldn't beat Big East teams, right? So I'm kind of... I get the expansion thing because of the scheduling, because of the championship game, etc., and the divisions. And it all makes sense. Part of me's like, heck yeah, bring on some weak teams. That's automatic wins. Bring it. Would that perpetuate the Baylors and the OSUs to more elite status because they're getting more wins every year over these weaker Big 12 opponents? After a few years and after a few upsets, they look more legit. Like TCU looked kind of crappy when they first came to the Big 12, but then they started winning, and they are, in my mind, at least my public opinion of EJ, TCU's a legit team. So, and they were what were they, Big East, or they were something weird. Mountain West, exactly. And nothing before they beat OU at home that one time. So I think one, I want the best possible team, and I don't know who that is, because just like my Florida State comment, you never know who's going to be good in 3 years. And does adding them to the Big 12 all of a sudden make them better teams
Right.
because now they can pull some recruits? I don't know. It didn't work for Colorado. They sucked the whole time. But I don't know.
Yeah. So on the subject of expansion, I think at this point there are two options on the table for the Big 12 if they want to continue to be one is they expand and maybe it waters them down and maybe you don't get ideal. Maybe you do a Cincy, maybe you do a UConn. Those wouldn't be my picks, but maybe you do that. Well, then you can go back to divisions and like EJ was saying, you can prop up the teams. You can prop up, OU, Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, all these teams that are the powerhouses. I mean, you look back on the Big 12 and what it used to be, and it was OU, Texas, Nebraska. 3 teams really, just 3 teams. Yeah. But people revered them as the football gods, right?
Well, they were the ACC of their day. I mean, I think.
But the reality was, you look at Nebraska, and they played in the Big 12 North. Who were they playing? Nobody. It was always Nebraska in the Big 12 championship game because they played nobody. And so maybe it's worth, with this new Power 5 rule, we're going to play some good out-of-conference stuff. Maybe we can be like, okay, let's expand. Let's go to divisions. All of this is going to give everyone a better shot. Playing Power 5 and adding divisions kind of balances each other out in terms of just probability of making it. So I'm in favor of expansion because I think the alternative is that the Big 12 fades into obscurity and then gets picked off. I think if the Big 12 continues the way that it's going to do, I would think that Baylor's probably the next to leave to like the Pac-12 or something like that because we can only get by so long in the current state because it's broken.
So what if you had UConn and BYU and Cincinnati and you've got like 9 time zones and your body clocks are all jacked up? I mean, is this a thing? I mean, I'm trying to think. Is this a real thing? Like where the travel's killing our players, where they're not playing up to? I'm not trying to be stupid, but you know what I mean.
It is to an extent. I think it causes issues. I mean, I think that's the biggest challenge West Virginia has faced since coming to the Big 12 is that they've got to travel all the way down to Texas. That's a long flight, long trip to Morgantown, and people forget that it's not just football we're talking about here. It's basketball games, it's baseball games, it's wrestling, it's all of these other sports that everyone has to travel for. And when you accumulate that all together, it becomes very inconvenient because, the water polo team is probably not going to be able to get on a plane like the football team is, right? They're going to swim down the river to get down to Texas.
Yeah.
It becomes complicated. So that factors into expansion because, okay, let's say, in my mind, a front runner for expansion would be BYU because they have such a huge alumni base, such a huge footprint. They kind of have a football tradition of being a football school. But imagine going from BYU to Morgantown or BYU even to Texas. I know it's 18 hours from here to Salt Lake City, so that's a long way. But does it really play into it that much? I don't know, but it plays into it somewhat. It's something to consider. But
do the Texas schools fly? Does Baylor fly to Austin?
I think probably. I can't imagine.
It doesn't really matter if you're flying, right?
Yeah.
You're one stop no matter what. I mean, you're 0 stops. You're straight line because you have a team playing the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the Big 12 has a plane, right?
Right, I think so. I know the OSU football team does, and if they do, I can imagine most of the major ones do. Maybe Iowa State doesn't. Maybe Kansas doesn't. Yeah. But I can't imagine any modern school not having that. But I would say, so just in terms of expansion, if we're talking my picks of what I would like to see, I'd like to see BYU for the footprint. I think Louisville would be a fantastic addition because they bridge the gap between us and West Virginia. They have a history with West Virginia. They're a good basketball school. They're a good baseball school. They've got a good footprint in a region that we're not in. Maybe that's a good one. Another under-the-radar one that people aren't thinking about is Colorado State. They're getting ready to renovate a new stadium. They have 30,000 enrolled students. They're in Fort Collins, so craft beer.
So craft beer. Wait, where are they now? Where's Colorado State? What conference? Mountain West? Or is that even a thing anymore? I don't even know.
I have no idea, actually.
They're not Pac-12.
No.
Yeah.
No. But they've sent some people. I believe there was a guy. I can't think of his name now, but they sent a coach to Alabama. I think someone at Alabama coached at Colorado State previously. So they're kind of like OSU a few years ago.
Stepping stone school.
Yeah, stepping stone school. But
if you do well, you'll catch
right.
it.
If they joined the Big 12, who's to say that they might not have access to those Texas recruits? They might, very well build up and rise. It's hard to say, but
that's what you guys are missing in this whole conversation. First of all, Colorado State is in the Mountain West. It is still a thing. But you guys are missing the big picture here. It's all about recruits. We need the Florida pipeline to reach up into the Midwest.
So there's your UCF and USF.
Yep. That's why those two schools are even in the conversation.
Wait. So have OU, OSU, Baylor, Texas, anybody recruited one West Virginia player? I'm curious. So this pipeline is kind of BS. I think West Virginia recruits Texas players, but I don't think Texas recruits East players.
Everyone recruits Texas players.
I know, but you know what I mean? I think West Virginia now can get Texas players, but I don't think you just open up recruiting all of a sudden in that state.
Well, what it does is it gives you TV exposure.
Right.
So Oklahoma State finally ends up in the eastern part of the United States because they're playing West Virginia. And so now kind of these local guys are getting to see Oklahoma State football or OU football or, Kansas, God forbid, football. So I think that's the thing. And West Virginia is not necessarily a fertile ground for recruiting. Louisville would be kind of nice, but I think that falls a little too close to West Virginia. I agree. Louisville would be a great school to add as far as sports, but I still think it falls a little too close to West Virginia. In fact, I would actually trade West Virginia for Louisville if we could.
Well, so West Virginia is basically Pittsburgh, and Louisville is basically Ohio. I mean, I drove through all those cities going from Illinois to West Virginia for work, and it's like Louisville would be a great choice. Are they one of the ones we're looking at? Because I don't remember seeing those guys.
I don't think
They've
so
made
anymore.
Conversation, but I don't know.
I think they were at one point, but I don't think they are now. And another thing would be, could you get Louisville to leave their current conference?
Where are they at now?
They're in the ACC.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're the problem that we're talking about is, we're starting to spread our fingers everywhere. Like, the ACC kind of has that down. Like, they're just this regional conference, which is great for them,
Mm-hmm.
How did I have one more, so this is a little random. How did the Big Ten do this when there were 10? We have 10. How did the Big Ten do either of you know that?
I don't know. I never had much. I still don't. But
And how did the Big 8 do this?
Big Ten football, but
how did the Big 8 do this?
Big 8 was you can't compare that. It just seems like it was way too long ago. Rules are so different now.
Well, we just played everybody in the Big 8? We played every team? And there was no conference championship? Was there a Big 8 championship? There wasn't, was there?
What do you want from me, EJ? I have no idea.
What do you think I am? Big 12 Wikipedia? well, there is a Big 12 Wikipedia. While we're talking, go check that.
Well, I'm checking into the Big 10 first. God.
Schools I would rule out.
Too many questions.
While you're looking at that, a lot of people say, "Oh, Houston makes so much sense. Houston. We don't need a Texas school. We don't need it." Look, we already have a big enough footprint in Texas. I don't think it would bring a whole lot of new eyeballs to the market.
The only thing, if you got Houston, you just get half the teams pissed off because they beat you. And they only have 36,000 people that can fit in their stadium. So I'm just saying that no good can come of this.
No.
Yeah.
UConn's way too far out there. Not a football school at all. It'd be good for Kansas. They'd have a great basketball rival. But other than that, I don't see much reason in adding them. Plus, the people up there don't really care about football. They're all lacrosse and other things.
Yeah.
So.
Cricket.
Yeah.
Reading.
We're reading.
A spelling bee.
Listen, we get enough of that from cereal boxes and comic books, okay?
Exactly.
But it's a hard problem. Like EJ kind of alluded to, there's no upward movement for the Big 12 here. Anything that we would be doing would be lateral at best with someone like BYU or lower.
We were totally ignorant letting A&M, Nebraska, and Missouri go. Totally ignorant. I mean, you're going to replace those three with USF and Houston? Seriously? Idiots?
I think TCU ended up being a great pickup, though. So, it can work. It's just...
But A&M, you don't let a big, crazy-looking school that you can beat every year go. This is it's like a gift in your hands. It's like, yes, A&M.
Even OSU could beat A&M in the dark days. I mean,
exactly. It was like, God, stupid. You never let a school who looks really good that you can beat go ever. God. All you do is add teams that will probably beat you in the future and make you look bad.
So is the Big 12 becoming like the stepping stone school or the stepping stone conference, just like OSU used to be a stepping stone school?
Or like the Big East or like the Mountain West. You get big enough, you go out of that conference and go to the big boys.
Yeah, it just feels like...
Well, they better figure it out. I know that.
We're trying so hard to play on the same level as the SEC and the Pac-12, and it feels like we kind of get there with the Pac-12 a little bit, but then stuff like this rolls around, and it just feels like we're more in line with the Mountain West, with the Boise States and the Colorado States. And
our stars.
Let's say we're a little more in line with the Pac-12. Don't go there, dude.
We're like a.
I just said, I think we are. I think we're a lot. I think there's a lot of not necessarily similarities, but parallelisms with the Pac-12 and the Big 12.
Yeah.
So I love the Pac-12. And really, I think if we could merge with one conference, I would pick the Pac-12.
Well, I think our offensive styles would match.
Yeah.
Although we'd never win a national championship because, grinded out boys in the SEC would just grind us to a Tex-Mex corn ground.
But I just don't think we're ever going to play that kind of football, though. At least not
here's the real
in the
problem.
near future.
Mike Leach screwed us by introducing 60 passes a game in the year 2000 with OU. He screwed us. He showed a map of how mummies, I'm going to pass it 70 times a game and forget running. He showed that at OU in 99 and 2000. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, holy crap, this is hard to defend. Let's all do this. Well, it's hard to defend if you're mediocre, but it's not hard to defend if you are superior, right? So, I don't know. It sure is exciting to watch, though.
Look, I think all this talk of expansion and everything, I don't think it's going to matter in 5 years. Because if you want my honest opinion on what's going to happen, it's super conferences all the way, man. It's just a matter of, and the Big 12 is going to be the first one to get picked off of the Power 5, I guarantee you.
So it'll be Power 4.
We're on the chopping block. We're going to go to, like Chris said, either the Pac-12 or the SEC. It's pick one, and which one's closer, right? So
probably the SEC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense from a geographical standpoint. Would the SEC want us? Because again, we're kind of reintroducing the Texas issue. They already have A&M into Texas. Why would they need TCU?
Well,
Texas.
Think about this for a second.
Texas
I mean,
Baylor.
We might have super conferences, and I really see Texas becoming an independent, like Notre Dame. They need to be an independent.
Oh, no, come on.
Longhorn Network.
That's just pretentious.
They don't play nice with others.
They don't play nice with others.
They've dictated the conference, and the reality is you know what? OU, OSU, they're going to follow each other. I bet Baylor and TCU go to the same place, wherever that is, and then Texas will be an independent. Kansas, K-State will stick together. Iowa State will probably stick with them. All the North.
Or go Big Ten.
Yeah.
This is a Big 12 podcast, and I'm all about it. But it was just so much fun to watch Texas burn this year just because of how kind of pretentious they are.
Yeah. It's the ultimate karma.
So, yeah, dude. All right, so let's talk a little bit of coaching changes. Maybe there's not a whole lot of news on this because Iowa State is the only team to hire a new coach for next season. The head coach from Toledo, Campbell, I believe is his name.
Yep.
But I believe that there will be maybe some coaches on the hot seat for next year if they can't get their teams to perform. Also, the general heads down to TCU to reunite with Meacham. Meacham does not go to A&M. Spencer does not go to UTSA. So overall, some general stability in the Big 12 this year as far as coaching goes. Seems like recruits, I don't know from the rest of the Big 12 teams, it seems like Oklahoma State has lost a ton of recruits just from the last 3 weeks of the season until, signing day is, like a week or so away. So
Although it seems like we've lost a few, but we've also gained some chances on some guys, and we've offered guys who have then decommitted. So this is after our little 3 or 4 decommits, I think this is just part of the game, and I think the more in tune we are, and the more we see this year after year, it's not going to be so shocking because it felt a little shocking at first. I was like, "Dear God, the ship is sinking."
All the recruits that decommitted were these super skill guys. They're receivers, they're quarterbacks. Not necessarily things that I'm not going to say we don't need them because we always need good quarterbacks. We need to have good stable. We need to have a good stable of receivers and get the next big guys. But I'd rather us look at offensive linemen. I'd rather us look at those under the radar JUCO guys that always end up being so successful, right? I mean, so it appears like we're bleeding, and this is the same of any school. It appears like we're bleeding when you lose all these recruits, but that's because these star recruits are going to do that. They're going to jump around. They're going to decommit. But
they're going to take all the visits they can take. And
exactly.
All the free whatevers, all the attention.
But the real recruiting work is done with those, and this is what coaches like Mike Gundy, coaches like Bill Snyder are great at, is taking 2-star guys and making them play like 4 or 5-star guys.
Yeah. That's what I respect so much from Gundy and Snyder, just like you said, just because they can take these quote-unquote underrated guys, and they get guys that not just fit like the needs, but they also fit the culture. Mm-hmm. And I think that's huge, that somebody can come in and fit in and buy into not just the program, but, I've never been to Manhattan, but I know Stillwater is kind of like this podunk town, middle of nowhere. It's not Norman where you have like Oklahoma City and the, nightlife or whatever you want to call it. Like, so you kind of have to sacrifice a little bit if you're going to go to Oklahoma State, in that, like, the nearest big town is like an hour away. So to get guys to come in, and I know it's hard. Gundy is a master at the JUCO recruit, which I love. Even though we only get them for 2 years, they get some guys with experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's impressive, and I kind of wonder is the things are on fire, the ship is sinking. Is that because social media is around now and we're seeing it more? Like, did this happen before and we just didn't know it as much?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so first off,
I believe that. I believe you.
We all know, I'm not going to name the name because that's ridiculous that grown men talk about, recruits on social media. So we're not going to actually name a name. Maybe you wanted to, but I'm not going to name the name. So we're talking about a specific quarterback that was like gung-ho OSU and then decommitted. And that's fine, right? Part of me's like, okay, a kid's going to be a kid. It's a big decision. I mean, it's cool that you committed and were on board and going crazy and trying to get all your buddies to come too, and then all of a sudden you just totally flopped. But part of me's like, what if the coaches let that happen because his senior season wasn't as spectacular as it should have been. He lost some games. He's not really a winner. He threw for okay yardage. I mean, he didn't win state in Texas, all these things, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, he can be a pretty good, guy, but he's not going to dethrone Mason Rudolph in the next 3 years. He'll be sitting the bench for the next 3 years or 2 years or whatever. But you see what I mean? It's like maybe your situation was like, yeah, we good. I think we're good. So it's like not like
So
let's
maybe
not jump off the ship, guys, just
yeah.
because we
So maybe
lost
it's a
some
little more
guy.
strategic.
Exactly. You're like, you know what? We see some other guys we like, and we like him. But if we could get him, we're going to back off of him. If he commits, great. If he doesn't, okay. That means immediately we can go after these other guys. So I don't think we're at a disadvantage as much as the social media guys, sky is falling, OSU guys think. And I think this happens everywhere. The coaches know what they're doing. If they want a guy, they are going to get a guy, right?
Yep. It's better because you're going to save scholarships on these. So, which would you rather have? Would you rather have an offensive lineman who can come in and do some immediate good, you put him on scholarship, or do you want to have this redshirt so-and-so who's maybe going to play one day? Right. Play one day after, Mason Rudolph retires, and you have him on scholarship the whole time. So you tell me what's the better use of the scholarship, right?
Yeah. Would you rather have an offensive lineman or an Alex Cate?
Right. Exactly. So I don't. I think there's a point to it. Like social media makes recruiting seem like the end of the world. I know as a Cowboys fan, like we're a pretty self-deprecating group. We like to think the sky is always falling. That's the end of the world. So I think there's some element of that comes to play too. But yeah, it's not whatever, right?
Yeah, It did feel like the ship was sinking there for like a week or so. But on the other hand, I did tend to wonder, this has to happen every year, or this has to happen fairly regularly. And if you look at it, what actually happened was, I don't know if it started with us or we just got caught up in it, but there seemed to be this whole chain of events where we were in it somewhere, and then I noticed all these other schools had all these decommits too, which actually put us in the running for some other guys.
Yeah.
So I think that's, I think it probably eventually all balances out. Anyway, but for whoever watches this, and I know you guys, so I know you, can we all just agree, like, we are grown men.
Yeah.
Let's not yell at these 18-year-old kids who are choosing their future, choosing their school based on what stuff the coach is telling them that they're going to do, and based on what they think is best for their family. Like, leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can be proud of them for coming to your school. You can get support, behind them. Hey, we're looking forward to having you next season or next 4 years or whatever. But then when they decommit, if they decommit, when they decommit, like, leave them alone. Hey, wish them good luck. Hey, I hope this works out best for you. I hope it works best out for us too.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, stop with the hate, please.
Yeah, it seems like an unhealthy obsession for grown men to obsess so much about high school boys. I mean, come on, like,
just in general.
I know it's a very slow time in football news, and I know you're desperate for anything, but look, basketball is going on. Pick up a hobby, maybe. I love football as much as anyone, but I do not care about recruiting news. I just don't care.
PSA over.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just a little awkward when you're tweeting at recruits.
Yeah.
You can read about them and like keep up with them and be excited about the pipeline of new recruits coming in. Follow them on Twitter. See if they're a good kid or not. I mean, I do that sort of thing. If I see a good guy, it's like you get to know them that way. It's kind of an interesting time in social media. Don't freaking tweet at them if they decommit. Yeah. What?
I would actually rather not have. I can only speak for Oklahoma State fans. I would rather not have Oklahoma State fans tweeting at any potential or committed recruits until they're in uniform.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you get in uniform, then you can, like, maybe try and start up a conversation or whatever. I know I tried to do that with Whedon when he was in school here.
Yeah.
And, like, that was fun. But also I was a little closer. I was closer to, Whedon's age at the time.
I mean, you could like had coffee with the dude or something.
I know, right? And so, I mean, there's like that element. So, I just leave the kids alone. I wish they would just leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Okay, PSA over. That really kind of came out of nowhere. Sorry, I did not tell the guys I was going to say that beforehand. It just kind of rose up in me.
Yeah. Hey, inspiration hits, bro.
I guess, man. So, do you guys have anything else to add? Otherwise, we can wrap this thing up.
I think it's good to think about. So we were talking about like this new scheduling thing with the Big 12, but we've got a pretty good slate of non-con games next year. Everyone except Baylor has scheduled a Power 5 conference. And there's some really good ones. Let's see. There's Iowa State at Iowa. I mean, that's obvious. They play that every year. But now that Iowa's good, this game holds a lot more importance. Kansas at Memphis. I mean, we know how that one's going to go. But Memphis is a good team. That's not going to go well for Kansas. But hey, at least they're playing someone. Kansas State at Stanford. That's another big boy offensive line game. That'll be interesting. Again, probably not going to go well for Kansas State. But hey. Ohio State at OU. This is the big one. This is the great one.
Oh, wow.
That is going to be a fantastic game. And hopefully Big Game Bob doesn't show up like he did in bowl season.
Well, that is if Ohio State can, not piss off another quarterback and have him declare for the draft when he didn't even start.
Yep.
But again, beside the point.
We'll see about that one. That'll be a good one at any rate. That would be great. If OU ever wanted another fast track to the national championship, that's it. Another trap game for OU is OU at Houston. Houston's really good.
Brutal.
And if they lose, it's probably not going to do OU any favors, but everyone knows that's going to be a challenging non-con game. Oklahoma State at Pitt. Pitt's not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a Big Ten team, pretty middle of the road. I mean, that's better than Savannah State, right?
Yep.
Arkansas at TCU. Seems like Arkansas plays one Big 12 opponent every year in the non-con, so that's good. Notre Dame at Texas. Texas always schedules Notre Dame. I think Texas is also playing UCLA or Cal or someone like that, but Texas has always been good with their non-con scheduling. Texas Tech at Arizona State. I think that'll be a replay of the Arizona State and West Virginia game.
Yeah, could be good, yeah.
And then BYU versus West Virginia, a potential glimpse of what the future of the Big 12 might look like.
Well, dear God, I hope West Virginia can fare better than Texas, because that's pretty much been the downfall of Texas, is losing like bad to BYU.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be Dana's mad scientist. I think he'll know how to figure them out a little better than Charlie Strong, but it'll be an interesting game. I really don't know what to expect. Those two teams are very kind of polar opposite in terms of their strengths, so that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought this up, Garrett. Thank you for running through all that. I wonder if we could tie this non-con conversation with the expansion conversation and the recruiting conversation. Like, are scheduling these non-con games with the Power 5 teams an easy way to get the recruiting pipeline, to get Big 12 football in front of some of these guys' eyes, these high school guys' eyes? Like, let's schedule a Miami. Let's schedule a Florida State. That way Big 12 football hits the Florida recruits.
It's no surprise. That's what Texas has done.
I think that's exactly right. I think, guys who grew up Georgia fans and then OSU comes and beats them, they're like, who the heck is who the heck are these guys? These guys are legit. They got sweet orange colors. Hey, whatever. I think that's
Tennessee orange.
If you win. If you lose, you're just a turd. But if you win, you can boost your program in this way.
Yeah. Well, it's been no surprise that this is what Texas has done with scheduling UCLA forever. They want that pipeline to California recruits. I mean, they have all the pipeline to Texas for sure, but California's got a lot of good football players, and that's strategic on their part to have done that.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, another thing that kind of interests me, and maybe this is a little, not a conspiracy theory, because it's not a conspiracy, but I see teams like BYU and Houston on the schedule. I know we've historically scheduled Houston, so that's not a big thing, and BYU. But I have to wonder if maybe these are audition games.
So how do you win that audition? Win or lose? If you lose, they're like, yeah, we'll let them in. But if you win, you're like, heck no, get out.
This is how you win the audition game. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. What matters is that the Big 12 makes a lot of money on TV. That is the win. And if they do,
so for example, if BYU and who are they playing?
West
Virginia, and all of a sudden you have TV ratings all over the United States because of the Mormon following of BYU all over the United States, then all of a sudden the Big 12 goes, oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually a good point.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about the money. It has nothing to do with anything else other than the money.
I'm glad we didn't bring that up because we didn't even pretend like this is about academics because I just think that's a shame. Like
no.
when all those teams, when the Big 12 teams went, especially A&M, I remember this about A&M in Missouri, when they went to the SEC was like, oh, we brought these schools in because they align academically with, our like whatever. Like we're not even gonna on this show. We are not going to pretend it's about academics.
No way, 0%.
No.
That's what you get from the B12 podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading.
All right. I guess let's wrap this thing up. Thank you, EJ, Garrett. This has been a tremendous season to go through with you guys. I think it's been a lot of fun to do these, 5-6 episodes with you guys. Hopefully we can come back next year stronger, better, bigger, faster. One true champion. So I just know, I appreciate you guys joining me. It's been a ton of fun for me. Hopefully it's been a ton of fun for you guys. I just enjoy sitting with you guys talking about football and whatever else comes up. And hopefully you as the viewer have enjoyed it as well. Like I said, we're gonna go with the football season, so we're gonna take this time off, hang out with our families, each other, and just kind of tweak this thing a little bit just to make it the best we can be. Really, this season was just us trying to figure out what we're gonna do, how our process is gonna work. I think we figured a lot of it out. We might change some marketing stuff, but that's what the off season is for. So we're going to recover from our injuries. We're going to come back healthier. We might hit the recruiting trail next year and try and see if we can get some other guests on board. I've just had a great time. Thank you guys once again for joining. Thank you for watching. We will be back. We plan to be back probably sometime in August 2016 so that we can get a couple preseason shows in as we get closer to the actual season. And then we'll have a ton more news to talk about over the summer and all that. So you guys have anything else to say as we sign off here?
See you next season.
Yep. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to next season. And we know that there'll be twists and turns that will give us so much to talk about while our heads will explode. Mm-hmm. One thing that we do want to recruit is not necessarily guests. We do want to have guests on, but we want to recruit some sponsors. So if you're if you're willing to pay us money to talk about your product, hopefully have a really great product that we would love to use, and then it'll be really easy. It'll be a natural fit for us.
I will do any product placements. You just tell me what to do. I will do it. I have no shame.
He's a product whore.
Zero shame.
I, on the other hand, will only do products that, one, pay above a certain threshold, but two, are actually cool products.
That's fair. You and your integrity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might do product placement for free if it's good product.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't have said that. Never mind. I take that back.
Yeah. This podcast brought to you by Long Awkward Silences.
That was one thing. We haven't actually had fake sponsors this year except for, I think, one hashtag I threw out. Like Even Walsh or something, I think.
We didn't even get to Walsh. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
We'll get to that next season. I'm sure
we might bring
wear his
that.
ugly head.
Yeah, we might bring that up. Actually, that would be a good first of the season thing to talk about as things kind of ramp up for Walsh. If you don't know, Walsh has become a graduate assistant at TCU, which feels a little betrayal, but he joins Meacham, who he has connections with anyway, and so it's kind of natural. Kind of the rumor or the thing going around Oklahoma State Twitter is he's going to end up at OSU like by 2030 probably. So, I don't feel like we've seen the last of him.
No.
Probably you guys don't either. I think he's a smart guy, set himself up well to become a coach somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You think Meacham will ever come back?
Oh, I hope.
I think he got snubbed. I think he's pissed.
Yeah.
He did.
That's
He
what I
did.
think.
And we didn't even talk about Wickline going to West Virginia, which we're not going to. But
Which is weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
How many schools can you fake play call at? Just asking.
Well, we're
We
gonna
are-
find
Wickline, stop it.
We're
Just
about
come
to find
home
out.
and make the fatties good.
Yeah.
Stop it. Just come home and make the fatties good.
He probably just needed some Red Bull. That's it.
Mm.
So anyway, thank you guys again for joining EJ and Garrett. This has been awesome. Check out EJ Hayes on Twitter at EJ Hayes. Garrett is at GW Sauls SAULS. I am at spelling bee champion. I am at CJ Armstrong. Just hit us up. We're not affiliated with any Big 12 school. We are just fans. Huge Oklahoma State fans. I guess we are affiliated. We're all graduates of Oklahoma State.
There is that.
There's that
Technically,
one
I have
tiny
affiliation.
thing.
However,
But besides that, we hope to introduce some new fun stuff next year. Possibly visiting a road stadium if we could, secure the funds for it. So anyway, yes, hopefully lots of exciting stuff that we're working on for next year. And also make sure to subscribe to our channel. Hopefully we could pop up randomly throughout the winter and in the spring with random cool stuff. So anyway, for the final time, thank you for watching the B12 podcast where every show matters. And we will see you next year.
thanks, guys.